What is going on, guys? Kiamimaru007 back with another Marvel's Contest Champions video, and in today's video we're going to talk about Omega Red, right? Another champion that helped me get to the Cavalier level, a champion I took out specifically for Act 6, right? There's a Crossbones matchup which this guy is insanely good for, right? Best option on my team, right? So I took him up, took him to rank 4, used an Awakening Gem on him, threw a whole lot of signature stones into him, right, to get him to 633, and I don't regret it at all. This champion is amazing. He's got nice attack, nice health, quite the average health pool slash attack, right, when it comes to this game, but that's not where his damage comes from. Where his damage comes from is the death spores and the degeneration, right, which we'll talk about in his abilities right now. So let's just jump right into it, right? We'll talk about the duped ability last, because the duped ability is what makes him truly powerful, right? So passively, Omega Red's mutant physiology renders him immune to the effects of poison and reduces the damage of bleeds by 90%. So all incoming bleeds are reduced to 90% and he's immune to poison. So that means that he's a good option for Biohazard. And in fact, he's an excellent option for Biohazard, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when getting into his abilities. Tentacle hits reduce 100% of damage inflicted by enemy abilities that deal instant passive damage when they are struck. So the tentacle hits, right, when you're fighting an Electro, for an example, right, you can't take damage, right, when doing the tentacle hits. And the tentacle hits being his mediums and his heavy attacks, so you won't be taking any damage from Electro's abilities when you are fighting him like that. And then we talk about the death factor. While near the opponent, Omega Red inflicts 1 death spore every 0.5 seconds up to a maximum of 10. Once the opponent is out of range, they lose 1 death spore every 0.15 seconds. Death spores are not affected by ability accuracy reduction, so nothing's going to stop you from putting death spores onto the opponent, basically. Each death spore lowers the opponent's armor rating by 107.89 and reduces their chance to purify debuffs by 10%. So each death spore reduces the chance to purify debuffs by 10%, right? And you can get 10 death spores, so that's 100%. But the most death spores you can get is 30. So if you multiply that armor rating, what's now lowering to times 30, we get to a number of 3,236.7 armor rating reduction, right? And then the death spores struggle to affect mechanical opponents and are inflicted 4 times slower against robots. So you don't really want to be using Omega Red against robots, even though like he does sound like a good option against robots too. He sounds like a good option against everybody, really. So yeah, just you're gonna have to play him very, very slowly and very perfectly if you're gonna verse him, if you're gonna use him to fight robots. But otherwise, the heavy attacks. So the heavy attacks inflicts a degeneration debuff for 7 seconds, dealing 270.75 damage for each death spore on the opponent. And like I said, you can get this up to 30 death spores, right? And that number is going to be dealing up to 8,122.5 damage, right? Because you can get up to 30 death spores. I think I missed the death field. Yeah. So when Omega Red is bleeding, he emits the death field, right? So this is why I was talking about him being a good option for Biohazard, right? Because if you hit into the opponent's block, you are immune to the poison. But if you hit into them, if you land a physical attack, then you're going to get a bleed on you. Well, you have a chance to get a bleed on you, and when you do, you inflict your death field, right? So you begin the death field counter for as long as the bleed is on, right? You have the death field, right? So it's pretty, you kind of want to be having a bleed on you. It makes the fight easier. So if you have this champion, right, with the Suicide Masteries, he's pretty good. I mean, I don't suggest the Suicide Masteries, right, but if you have the Suicide Masteries already, this is a great champion, right, with the Bleed Suicide. So the death field causes death spores on nearby opponents to passively degenerate them, dealing 64.98 damage per second for each death spore on them. And like I said, you can get 30 death spores onto the opponent maximum, so this number will scale up to 1,949.4, we're getting to big numbers basically. The death field is not affected by ability accuracy reduction, so if you have a bleed on you, you're emitting the death field. Nothing's really going to stop that. And then while the death field is active, the limit for death spores on the opponent increases to 30. So this is where that increase to 30 death spores comes from, and this is why I'm multiplying some of the numbers by 30, because that's the maximum amount of death spores you can get. That's the maximum amount of damage you can get. The maximum reduction of armor you can get is from those 30. So the death spores do not expire while the opponent is out of range of the death factor for as long as they have an active degeneration. So what you're going to want to be doing is making sure that the opponent has a constant degen on them, right? So you want to be every 7 seconds, you want to hit them with the heavy attack so that you can have that degeneration on them, so you don't need to be near them necessarily. Or you maybe want to dash back for a special, right, and you don't want your death spores to fall off, then you gotta hit them with a heavy attack, let the degen get onto them, and then you can dex the special, go back in, right? And then special one. Now Omega Red's healing is pretty good, right? He's got a great lifesteal, and this is where the healing comes from, is that special one. So it will remove all death spores from the opponent to inflict lifesteal, stealing 146.21 health from the opponent for each death spore removed by this attack. And like I said, you can put up to 30 death spores on the opponents. If you throw a special 2, right, you get them up to 30, you use the degen, and then you hit into them, and then you throw your special 1 and you remove all 30 of those death spores, you can gain up to 4,386.3 health, right? And that's obviously a great regen. You see his max health is 22,000, so that's obviously a lot of health to steal back, right? So he's a great lifesteal opponent, right? Very good for the incursions, right? If you've been through a couple of zones, and then you can start using the lifesteal to get his health up again, and then you can continue your way without needing to heal at the end of the incursion. It's a great incursion champion. And then the special 2, Omega Red emits the death field for 10 seconds, right? Obviously a great ability. He throw the special 2, you can emit the death field, right? You can throw your heavy attack, right, and then all that 30 will stick. This is where you get the 30, right? If you don't have a bleed on you, then you use a special 2 to emit the death field, and you can get the 30, and then you spend the rest of the match basically trying to keep a degen on the opponent so that the 30 death spores don't drop off. But like I said, you're dealing up to 8,122 damage with the death spores, right? It's a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage, and I doubt the opponents will last very long in the fight when you have 30 death spores on them with the degen. And then we have the special 3, right? Probably not going to be throwing the special 3, but if you do, it's a good option, right? Removes all death spores from the opponent, and that's up to 30, like I said, and inflicts them with Essence Steal for 3 seconds, passively stealing both 252.7 health and 3.30% of current power from the opponent for each death spore removed. Now we're going back to that 30 death spores on the opponent, so we're going to multiply these, right? So you can, with this third special is where the most of your lifesteal will come, and it's because you will be stealing 7,581 health. If you throw the special with 30 death spores on you, then you're stealing 7,581 health, right? And then the power drain, or the power steal, right, would be 99% of power. So if the opponent has a special 3 and you can get your special 3 and you have you got death spores on you, right? If you have 30, you can actually steal 99% of the opponent's power, land 1 hit, and you can go in and do your third special again, or you can do your second special, right? So his third special is pretty good, and this happens within 3 seconds, so it's not something you have to really worry about, right? That power steal with 30 death spores on the opponent is faster than most power gain, right? So even if the opponent has a power gain and they're at their special 3, right, this will be able to steal power faster than they can gain power. So it's a pretty good special 3. And now we're gonna jump into Realm of Legends, and we're gonna fight the Winter Soldier, of course, everybody's favorite punching bag, right? We're just gonna see how the damage scales up, right? So we didn't talk about that. Okay, let's go back actually, because we didn't talk about his duped ability, which is actually what makes him so powerful. Here we go. So the lethal dose passive, opponent has 10 or more death spores. Right, the death spores on the opponent deal 1018.31 damage per second, and this damage scales with base attack only, right? But the higher the sig, the higher the damage here. So at sig 131 it was like 1005, and here at sig 133 it's at 1018. So once you get him to sig 200, he's doing a lot of damage, and then this doesn't really matter that much. But my Omega Red's basic tentacle hits have a 0.03% chance to be unblockable. Doesn't matter, but the duped ability with the death spores is kind of what matters the most for this guy. So we're gonna throw him into Realm of Legends here and face off the Winter Soldier. This is the team. So with the synergies, you got Sabretooth, which makes the death spores go onto the opponent faster and drop off of them slower by like 30%, and then with Void, the death spores, or the damage you do with the death spores, is increased by 10%. So that's like the synergies with Omega Red. I think the Sabretooth is a little bit more useful than the Void, but if you have both Sabretooth and Void, put them both in the team. And then of course Nick Fury and Quake for the evade synergies. Now we're gonna jump into this fight and show you guys basically what you're doing when you're fighting as Omega Red. So we got the Winter Soldier here, right? Omega Red, one of the best options for farming potions against this Winter Soldier. So there we're at 10, and then we get the degen, right? We don't need to be near him, and he's doing that damage with the degen, right, for each death spore. And then we go in again, right? We kind of want to bait out a heavy, no, okay, he's not going to throw it. Parry, okay, there we go, death spores, and we have at 10, right? There's the degen. You kind of want to be keeping the degen on the opponent for the, most of the fight, right? It's where a lot of your damage comes from. Otherwise, keeping near the opponent will keep those death spores at 10. Parry, heavy attack, and then throw your special 2, and you'll be near him, and you'll start ticking up those death spores, and you don't need to be near him while the degen's active. But look at this damage. This damage with the death spores are stacking up, right? So we're staying near the opponent because I want to parry him and throw my heavy attack, right, so that I can get those death spores kind of to stick on him, right? There are 28 death spores. Okay, yeah, let's go. Come on, Winter Soldier, let me parry you. You see, with the, if we didn't have the Sabretooth, those death spores would have fallen off by now, definitely. So Sabretooth, very good option. Now watch this. I'm going to throw the special 3 with those 25 death spores, because I want to show you just how much health you're stealing and how much power you're stealing and how fast it happens. The power steal and health steal will happen over 20 seconds. Right, so watch this. Essence Steal on him, right? We gain back to 100% health, and he's got no power, and we stole all his power. We stole it all, right? With the with the 3.30%, and then obviously increasing to what's now the number of death spores you had on him, right? So you okay? We got stunned. It's all good. It's all good. If we're ever in danger, you throw the special 3 and you're gonna get all your health back. No worries, right? Or even the special 1. But here we go. Okay, well, I think we land the degen on him, and then we throw the special. I think that if you have the degen on them, the spores might not fall off, but I'm not too sure. We're kind of experimenting with that right now, right? Omega Red special is looking menacing, right? Okay, so the degen, the death spores do fall off, right? Even with the degen on, right? And we got a lot of health back, like 4%, but it's a lot of health, right? In this, and dexing the specials. And what do we want to do? We want to parry, kind of get that degen on him. Okay, cool. Yeah, so okay. And basically this is how the fights are gonna go with Omega Red, right? You can take the hits, he doesn't care really. Let's just actually get into him, get him up with the spores there, right? Get him with a heavy attack. Okay, and you kind of want to be near the opponent most of the time. 1, 2, 3, and then we want to parry, let that degen fall off, then hit the degen back on. Right, and we'll go for another special 3 so you guys can see that power steal as well as the life steal from that parry, heavy attack. So you're keeping the opponent in the corner most of the match, right? Remember, this Winter Soldier has a lot of health, right? May not hit the hardest, but he has a lot of health. So they're 24 death spores. We're gonna steal all that power and a whole lot of health, right, within 3 seconds, right? So like I said, they can combat even the strongest power that they can gain. Right, look at this. Right, we stealing all that power over 3 seconds, right, and our health is back at 100%. Great champion, right? He was very necessary in fighting the crossbones of X6, right? One of the hardest fight, I would say, the hardest fight I had to go through when fighting. There we go. So we got a bleed on us, right? And now we have the death field active. Right, this is amazing. For as long as the bleeds are on, we had the death field, right? And then we can just go into the death field once again for 10 seconds. Yeah, so the crossbones fight was the hardest, right? And with this, with the duped ability, right, at very high sig, and Omega Red being kind of immune to the biohazard, right, that the crossbones has on him, he's pretty good. He's I think he's the best option in the game for what's now for that fight, because he's just doing so much damage, right, with the spores, right, and he's taking almost no damage from the bleeds. So basically you hit into that crossbones, you get a bleed on you, and then you stay near him, right, for the rest of the fight. And I mean, the degen and the death spores are doing more damage than the vigor can heal back, right? So he's an amazing option for X6.1 crossbones, right, which is the hardest boss you have to fight before getting Cavalier. Otherwise, that is it for Omega Red, guys. You saw how powerful he was against that Winter Soldier. You saw how good his lifesteal is with the special 3. I didn't show the special 1. The special 1's lifesteal isn't as good as the special 3's lifesteal, but it's still a good lifesteal, up to 4,000 health. But the special 3 lifesteal with that up to 7,000 health is pretty good. As you guys can see, we got to 100% after our special 3s, and we took all of his power, and we could throw our special 2 again, right? So Omega Red, an amazing champion, great option for biohazard. My opinion, the best option for the X6.1 crossbones before becoming Cavalier. That is going to be the hardest opponent you fight, right, is that crossbones, and he's an amazing option for it. He basically cheeses the fight. It's a very cheese method, right, of getting down that fight. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and you learned something about Omega Red. Very powerful champion, one of the best in the contest, right? A great incursions champion too. Is not just good for Realm of Legends Winter Soldier and X6.1 crossbones. He's a very good incursions champion with his lifesteal, right? He's a pretty good champion overall. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, leave a like, hit the subscribe button for more videos if you're new here, right? Leave a comment below, tell me what you think of crossbones. Tell me if you think there's anybody better than not crossbones than Omega Red for fighting that 6.1 crossbones. And hit that notification bell so you can be notified as soon as all future videos come out. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your days. Peace.